Hey there, I am so incredibly glad you decided to join me for this explainer today. Look, if you've been feeling stressed, overwhelmed, or even, a little bit ashamed about your financial situation lately, I just want you to take a deep breath. Right now, you are in a completely safe, zero judgment zone. I'm your financial coach for this session, and today we are going to shine a light on the invisible debt trap. This is a financial cycle that honestly catches some of the absolute smartest, most responsible people totally off guard. We're going to unpack the psychological illusion behind buy now, pay later services, and most importantly, we are going to walk through exactly how you can break free from it. So let's just dive right in.
I want to kick things off by asking you a really direct question, and I just want you to answer this honestly in your own head. Do you know exactly how much you owe on your shopping apps right now, like down to the dollar? If your stomach just did a little flip, please know you are definitely not alone. I want to tell you a story about a 27-year-old graphic designer living in Austin, Texas. On the morning of March 7th, she casually opened up her banking app and saw a negative balance of $412. Keep in mind, she had just been paid 2 days earlier. She completely panicked, frantically scrolling through her transactions looking for fraud or maybe a bank error. But no, every single charge belonged to her.
She literally couldn't understand how it happened. She actually said, "I hadn't maxed out a credit card. I had never walked into a bank and asked to borrow money." And honestly, I think that quote perfectly captures exactly why this trap is just so insidious. Over the course of 14 months, all she had done was tap a button that said Pay in 4 on practically every online purchase she made. A pair of running shoes, a little skincare set, a desk lamp, nothing crazy. Each one felt super small, and they just sort of blended right into her normal life. In her mind, she was being highly responsible by splitting up the payments instead of putting them on a high-interest credit card. It didn't feel like a loan at all. It just felt like a really smart budgeting hack.
But then, she sat down and did something pretty terrifying. She actually added up every single active installment plan she had running across Klarna, Afterpay, and Affirm. And I want to say this number really slowly. She owed $3,800. She literally had no idea the number was that high until she physically wrote it down on paper. She was walking around carrying nearly $4,000 in debt that no bank, no traditional lender, and no credit bureau could even see. It's wild. It just goes to show you exactly how easily these small, seemingly invisible purchases compound behind the scenes.
Now, think about how this contrasts our psychology with actual financial reality. When you use buy now, pay later, what you feel is that you are doing what we call responsible splitting. You're just managing your cash flow, right? That's exactly what the checkout page is telling you. But what it actually is something financial regulators are now calling phantom debt stacking. Because when you tap that little button, no hard credit inquiry hits your report. No new account officially opens on your credit file. Traditional lenders can't even assess it. You could literally have 10 of these loans across 10 different platforms, and not a single one of them would know about the others. It creates this completely invisible, parallel layer of consumer borrowing.
Let's break down how this builds mechanically, because this is the exact moment where the math catches up with the illusion. Step 1. You buy a $100 item and you only pay 25% upfront. That sounds incredibly consumer-friendly, doesn't it? But then comes step 2. The remaining 3 payments are scheduled out over the next 6 weeks. Now I want you to multiply that schedule by 3, 4, or maybe 5 different purchases. Suddenly, you hit step 3. 6 weeks later, all of these completely separate payment schedules overlap perfectly. Your bank accounts start draining from multiple directions at once, and it almost always happens exactly when your rent or your major bills are due.
If you have ever experienced that sheer panic of overlapping payments draining your checking account, I really need you to hear this from me. It is not a flaw in your budgeting skills. The system is literally built so you do not see it coming. When the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau actually looked into this, they found that the average borrower isn't just taking out one loan, they are taking out over 6 loans per year per individual lender. And since we know that 63% of borrowers use 2 different platforms, your real annual number is probably closer to 12 or 13 separate installment plans all running at the exact same time. And on top of that, the average user actually carries hundreds of dollars more in credit card debt and personal loans than non-users, so they aren't avoiding debt at all. They are just stacking it.
Which brings us to one of the most massive psychological myths that keeps people trapped in this endless cycle. Check out this data from LendingTree from February 2026. 62% of users wrongly believe that using buy now, pay later is actively building their credit score. But it doesn't. Most of these providers do not report your on-time payments to the credit bureaus. You get absolutely zero upside for paying on time. None. But if you miss a payment, you get hit with late fees, sometimes up to 25% of the total purchase price on certain platforms. And if you default entirely, it goes straight to collections, which ruins your credit for 7 years. It's essentially a toll booth with no receipt. The upside is totally invisible, but the downside is absolutely permanent.
So, the absolutely crucial point I want to make here is this. If you are currently struggling to keep up with these payments, I want to reassure you that you are not failing alone. Just look at how these late payment rates have skyrocketed recently. Back in 2024, 34% of users had made a late payment. By 2025, that climbed to 41%, and by April of 2026, it reached 47%. In just 2 short years, the late payment rate jumped a staggering 13 percentage points. Nearly half of everyone using these apps is now falling behind on payments that were originally marketed to them as being totally easy and painless.
But here is the shift that I find the most alarming. We aren't just talking about people buying fun items anymore, like a new couch or a weekend vacation. We are talking about sheer, basic survival. In 2024, 14% of users relied on these loans just to buy groceries. By 2026, that number doubled to 29%. For Gen Z, it's sitting at 38%. And absolutely heartbreakingly, 62% of parents with young children right now say they would not be able to make ends meet without these loans. Let that sink in. A tool that was introduced purely for online shopping convenience has literally morphed into a survival mechanism for American households.
Now, putting my coach hat firmly back on, we need to look at the cold, hard math of what this is actually costing your future self. Let's go right back to our graphic designer in Austin. She kept an average outstanding balance of about $1,900 constantly rotating through these plans. If she had broken that cycle and instead invested that $1,900 into a simple S&P 500 index fund, earning, say, an average of 10% annually, well, in 10 years, it would be worth $4,928. In 20 years, $12,782. And in 30 years, $33,154. She didn't just lose the initial $3,800 she owed, she lost the $33,000 that her money was supposed to grow into.
And I really want to remind you, getting caught in this is not a personal failing on your part. You are up against a massive, highly optimized machine. As of 2025, the total transaction value of Buy Now, Pay Later hit $70 billion. That is a $70 billion parallel credit system, and it is operating with almost zero regulatory oversight, no standardized reporting, and frankly, way fewer consumer protections than a basic department store credit card had back in 1985. The CFPB actually tried to classify these providers as credit card issuers, so they'd have to give you basic billing statements and dispute rights, but they completely withdrew that rule in 2025. You are out there fighting a $70 billion system completely on your own. The entire system relies on heavily manipulating your psychology. Notice how the checkout button always says Pay Later. It very intentionally does not say Borrow Now. They've essentially trained you to believe that this isn't real borrowing. But guess what? The reality is finally catching up. FICO actually began incorporating this Buy Now, Pay Later data into real credit scores in the fall of 2025. This invisible debt is very quickly becoming painfully visible. Yet shockingly, 45% of users say they won't change their habits even if they know their credit score is being affected. That is exactly how deeply this psychological trap sets in. But listen to me, you absolutely can break the trap. The designer in Austin did it. She successfully paid off all $3,800 of her debt in 7 months, and she canceled her accounts on all 3 platforms. But I really want you to listen to what she said about the experience. The hardest part was realizing that every time I tapped that button, I believed I was making a smart choice. The real victory for her wasn't just paying off the money, as great as that was. The real victory was breaking the psychological illusion that the slick app interface created. The interface told her she was responsible, but the math told her something entirely different.
So, because I'm your coach today, I'm giving you a highly direct homework assignment. If you are using these platforms right now, I want you to do exactly what she did. Step 1, open every single Buy Now, Pay Later platform you have on your phone. Step 2, add up every single active installment plan you've got going. And step 3, write down the total number on a real piece of physical paper. Seriously, do not just do it in your head. Write it down. If that final number surprises you, well, it was supposed to. This entire $70 billion system literally depends on you never actually sitting down to do the math. Which brings us to our final question for the day. Are you ready to stop letting the app interface do your math for you? The shiny button says Pay Later, but my friend, later is actually right now, and the balance is almost definitely bigger than you think it is. You have the power to step completely out of this invisible cycle starting today. Take back your control, confront the actual math, and start putting your hard-earned money toward your own future. You've totally got this. I'll see you next time.